Hi, Matadors. It's your principal, Julie Parks, and I think it's time for another update. It's been a couple of weeks, but there have been a lot of new developments. So I'm here today to clarify a few things about reopening, athletics, testing, and small group access here on campus. Here we go. So this chart that you're seeing in front of you represents our best guess as educators who have now all become official statisticians and epidemiologists about what we might expect for community spread and for the reopening of school. A couple weeks when I messaged you, we were feeling very optimistic about a reopening in late February. We've now seen that curve that's been falling pretty steeply has flattened off a bit. So that's slowing our timeline because we cannot open per the state requirements and now from guidance from CDC until our cases fall below a certain threshold. And so what you see here in blue represents real data. This is the curve that we've been experiencing over the last couple months. You can see that huge peak, and you can see that right now, as of 2/16, the number of cases per 100,000 for our county was at 18.1. And that's great news considering where we were a few weeks ago, but you can see that we're still firmly within that purple tier. And the red information on that graph represents the official projections out. So our state and our county, they record real data, and then they were able to give a little bit of a prediction outward on what they think the data might look like in coming weeks. Right now, that prediction goes out to 2/25 to February 25th, and you can see that on February 25th, the anticipated projection is at 11.2 cases per 100,000. A huge triumph from where we were in January for sure, but still above the threshold of 7 cases per 100,000 that we need to hit to be able to open in red tier. So what you see in gray, disclaimer alert, represents our anticipation about what this curve might look like if we extend it out beyond the current county projections. And you can see that based on this model, our projected red tier data would occur on March 9th. Now, a quick reminder about this. It's very confusing, but the way that things work is once we reach red tier data, it actually takes a full week for that to be officially notified by the state of California and for us to officially move tiers. So even though we would be projected red tier data by March 9th, we couldn't effectively open on that date. We'd have to wait a full week for that data to be posted and then count 5 days from there to be eligible to reopen under our current state guidelines. So where does that put us? If we follow this trajectory, we're looking to open for in-person hybrid instruction around the end of March before we go on spring break. So definitely pushed out from that really optimistic place we thought we were going to be a couple weeks ago, but still trending in the right direction and moving forward. So some things to keep in mind, because I know that out there in the community, it's been very frustrating and emotional to watch this continue to extend further and further into the spring. As a parent, I'm feeling that just like you are, and I have my ups and downs every day, like I imagine you and your students are also having with regards to how we continue to adapt under this climate. First thing I want to just put out there is that direction was really slow to happen. When we were in orange tier data very briefly in the fall, we just were not prepared with the type of direction that we needed from our different health agencies to be able to pivot so quickly. We have had since that time to prepare, which is really amazing. At that time in the fall, when we hit that, it's also important to note that there were no public schools in this area in 9/12 that were able to open earlier. It just was logistically too challenging, and we didn't have the infrastructure in place at that time. The good news, since then, we've gotten a lot of directions from all the different agencies that you see on here. The CDC, not the CDS, the CDPH, the CDE, all these different agencies that oversee us have put out a lot of new guidance around the tier opening objectives, around safety protocols, around testing requirements for staff and students, and about accessibility, making sure that every student can access their curriculum either in person or at home. I do want to also put out there, because I know we see a lot of it in the news, that although bargaining with our bargaining units is a part of this conversation, I want to emphasize that it has not been an obstacle for us in the AUHSD. Not to say that it hasn't taken a lot of conversation and collaboration, it has, but by all parties. Our teachers and our classified unit members have been extremely collaborative through this process to work towards solutions to get our kids back to school as soon as possible. That is an obstacle for a lot of places, but it is not our obstacle here. We continue to work really well with our bargaining units, and we all really have the same objective of getting our kids back as soon as possible. So I wanted to reassure you of that, because it's something I'm really proud of, and it makes me feel really great about this district and the staff that we have here and what we're all really centered around, which is our kids. So moving on from reopening, some good news, sports have indeed started, and many of you have students that are out there in purple tier sports already. I had the privilege of dropping by our very first athletic competition in almost a year for boys tennis yesterday, and it was great to see the kids out there in their colors, playing a team, and really enjoying themselves. We're approaching the red tier, and as we approach the red tier, we'll be opening red tier sports, baseball, softball, and girls lacrosse. Our league right now is working on drawing up those schedules. We have a league meeting later this week where those will be finalized, and then information for those red tier sports will get out, and we'll begin work on orange tier to get those open as soon as possible. Don't think we've forgotten you. Our objective is absolutely to get as many athletics going as possible this year, no matter how much we may have to compress and consolidate seasons to get it in. We want every child to be able to have a chance to get out there and play. So we're working really hard at that. Stay tuned for some information about a red tier sports meeting coming up beginning of March to get parents and students ready for the red tier sports. And then stay tuned for more news on orange and yellow as we approach those tiers. Some things you can get ahead on: if you visit our website and you check out the athletics tab, you'll see information on getting your medical clearance so that you have that all queued up and ready to go. Go check out that tab so that you can get those things sort of ready and lined up so that when we're able to transition, and we will be transitioning as quickly as we can, you'll have everything ready for you as we move into your sports season. Let's talk a little about AP. We have some guidance from the College Board. They are the oversight agency for our AP testing. They recently put out some information that outlined what we needed to be doing this spring to be ready for AP tests. Now, last year they did some consolidated testing at home because we were all at home on quarantine during the spring. This year they're going to be giving full AP tests, but they have a couple different options for how to administer these that include both in-person and online options. Now, as a district, we needed to make some decisions about how to administer those AP tests, and we've put together a tentative calendar that will be rolling out to you soon that involves a combination of some in-person and some at-home testing, depending on the AP test and the availability of that testing space. You can expect to see AP tests during the first 3 weeks of May, and we'll be putting that calendar out to you very soon. So stay tuned. It's coming out. The AP test will be over the first 3 weeks of May. We're keeping that last week of May open just for finals week to make sure that kids don't have to do 2 things at once. If students need to do makeups, there'll be makeup opportunities into early June for students who may miss the original take and need to do a makeup. So more information coming out on AP. And lastly, I want to tell you that as we are awaiting eagerly to reopen, we're really putting in some more targeted effort around small groups. You may have seen a constant contact this week outlining how students can sign up themselves to come onto campus each day and work in the library. Our library is all set up. We can accommodate 25 distance students in that space. It is quiet, it is spacious, it has great airflow and wonderful Wi-Fi access. So if your student needs a change of scenery, I encourage them to go in to teach more, sign up for a space in the library. If we seem to have a lot of demand for this, we're going to look to open a few more big spaces on campus for students to gather in before we're officially reopened. So there's just some more spaces for students to go to and be engaged during the day. So thanks for listening. I really appreciate your time. I hope this helped give you a few updates. Please don't hesitate to reach out with questions, and go Mats.